first shared their stories in caves, connected art, nature, and science, led us toward new horizons. Who thought to capture motion, spark an engine to life, turn television into a playground? Every day, you create the playful, the functional, and the unexpected. You break down walls and take us to astonishing places. Tell stories, leap borders, and create beauty for tomorrow. Because at Unity, we believe the world is a better place with more creators in it, where everyone has a chance to shape the world.
Good afternoon to our audience all across South APAC, from Greater India, Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand, and the Pacific. This is our weekly webinar series. In today's topic, we're going to be talking about a little bit of activity happening with how brands are engaging with customers with a view to entering the metaverse. And next slide, just some interaction points for today's webinar. Please put all of your Q&A in the Q&A box, not in the chat window. We will give specific links and sometimes materials in chat, but we'll only answer your questions if you put them in the Q&A box. If you are joining us on another social media platform where there is no Q&A button, you can put your chat there and it will, your question there, and it will be relayed into the main window. Today's webinar is about 75 minutes. And Unity RT3D technology is driving digital transformation change in all sorts of industries, from architecture, engineering, construction, automotive, transport and manufacturing, education, film and animation, computer games, and much, much more. And I haven't been in these webinars for a couple of weeks, so my tongue is already getting ahead of itself. Become certified in Unity to be able to work in any of those great industries at the forefront of digital transformation and this technology which is driving the next digital revolution. And feel free to pop onto our website to look at these different certification levels and to get you started for free. And also just a reminder, the long-term support edition of Unity has just released. Please update your version to be working with all of the latest supported tool sets that are available. One of our lucky attendees today will be will qualify for a swag pack lucky draw at the end, which will happen about 30 minutes after the webinar. If you're joining us from any of the other social media streaming services, please scan the QR code now to register. If you're not registered, you won't be qualified to be in the draw, and we will take your interests if you want to be a part of this and to qualify in the survey form at the end of the webinar. And just again, if you missed that QR code, it's down there on the bottom. You can see some of our recent lucky winners who are sporting their Unity swag items there. Today, we're looking at building next generation product engagement with Unity Forma. And next week's schedule is Introduction to UI Toolkit. And then we're going to go into a series for a month on business topics and using Unity in the metaverse and the industrial space before we come back with a gaming series a little bit later in the year. Okay, so just to give you a little bit of intro on today's topic. We're hearing about the metaverse a lot in the media and a lot from social media companies and gaming companies, and more with a perspective of what that means to an end user. But there's also the other element of that, and that is the element of businesses commencing their journey in how to engage with these users and to increase product engagement with their brands. And one of those methods is using product configurators to enhance the experience of buyers during their selection, discovery, and then purchase of their products. Some really good benefits with product configuration. You can bypass things like focus groups because you can see which part of your products your clients, your customers want to be most personalized and pretty much in real time. and you've got that data from people who really do have the intent to buy your product. On top of that, you're immersing the customer with a product without being physically present in a way that has never been done before. Today's session is all about how you get started in this, and you don't need to wait for the metaverse to be here. It's already here and it's already started. And join today in seeing how brands globally, from car manufacturers to watch manufacturers, jewelry, computer chairs, bicycles, outdoor equipment, and much more are already starting in this space using product configurators such as we're going to show you today. And our presenter today is Aniruddha, joining us from our India office, who's going to walk you through today's session. And please have your questions ready. We're here to answer them for you today. With that, take it away, Ani.
Thanks, Andy. So welcome everybody, and just want to make it clear that this is a pre-recorded session in the interest of not facing any technical issues. We will be breaking in between for question and answers, and we hope to answer your questions to the best we can. And without further ado, let me just start the recorded session. Welcome to today's webinar, Building Next-Gen Product Engagement with Unity Forma. So Unity Forma is one of the tools that Unity has come up with specifically for non-technical people, and with the intent of creating better marketing material to help sell products better. So let's cut to the chase. Sophisticated machines and equipment need to be marketed in sophisticated ways. So what do we mean by that? What we are seeing in the market today is that when buyers start their search, it's almost always starting online. That's why every product, no matter what its cost, complexity or size is, it needs to be properly showcased on the web and across other marketing channels as well. In the world of manufacturing, we are seeing that buyers expect to see exactly what they want to buy. Without the ability to deliver that, you're going to lose sales to competitors. And driven in part by the recent pandemic, manufacturers are moving away from in-person meetings to selling complex machinery online and with virtual events and meetings. How we see the market currently attempting to solve these issues is through things like trade shows and events, where prior to the pandemic and trade shows and conferences were extremely common and very effective. Then there were things like photography and 3D renders and animations that manufacturers would generate these real world images through photos and videos, as well as computer generated imagery via photo shoots or software or CGI. And then there was the marketing efforts where companies would hire outside groups to handle end-to-end workflows, such as preparing 3D data, creating marketing content such as 3D renders and videos, and then publishing that to various channels. And prior to the pandemic, configurators were a relatively smaller segment of this, where the buyer would need to visualize and configure what exactly that they want to buy. So why aren't these things working anymore? So trade shows and events are very complex, and it's costly to ship your machines and equipment across the country, or in some cases across the world. Additionally, you can only show a limited selection due to space constraints. COVID has also eliminated this channel for the time being, still in a lot of places. You need to maintain the revenue that you previously achieved through trade shows and on-site demonstrations without relying on them too much. For photography and 3D renders, while you can obtain high quality visuals, arranging photo shoots and rendering those images is time consuming, to produce and to deliver. And it's not possible to deliver interactive content, and it's very complex to maintain. Every small revision that you make to a product will need to go through the entire photography or rendering process all over again. As far as agencies and vendors are concerned, we can see that teams are often hiring multiple outside groups to work on different marketing content. This often means your data is spread across and it takes longer to make updates as inventory or products change. You can get quickly trapped into a never ending spend cycle for just product updates and the marketing material related to that. In case of configurators, where manufacturers have built a configurator themselves, we find that they tend to piece together a homegrown configurator solution, leveraging general tools that aren't necessarily designed for this purpose. For instance, using your 3D or CAD software to create a homegrown configurator. So often these visuals are of low quality. Building your own configurator has historically required long-term maintenance and hiring staff outside the core competencies of your company. So you don't necessarily have things like 3D artists or interactive developers if your primary function of your company is something else like architecture or manufacturing. So in order to exceed the customer expectations, we need to change a few things. Our playbook for the future needs to account for a bunch of new things that have not been variables up to this point. We have to consider data pipelines so that it's easy to manage and maintain product data and share it with agencies for marketing. Right? We have to consider the array of types of content needed to compete today. And the need for personalization and not presenting the data, same content or same data to every buyer is very strong. So what we are seeing in the market today is that when buyers start their search, it's almost always online. That's why every product, no matter its cost, complexity of size, needs to be properly showcased. So here you can see the core of our marketing solution. It's a product called Unity Forma. Unity Forma lets you import data like this new Holland compact tractor and then just quickly start setting up a configurator. Here we are preparing the colors and animations that will make this configurator more interactive for buyers. As you can see, all of this is done without coding because this tool is specifically designed for non-technical people whose primary function is to create marketing content. As you can see, there is no need to open up a coding window. There is no need to open up an external art program, provided you have all your data. Now you can see an interactive product configurator. Imagine your buyers being able to explore your products like this. Our solution also lets you create traditional digital media like images at a much faster rate and a cost-effective rate. So what makes our solution better? What makes Unity Forma better? First of all, it's a holistic set of solutions that solves these challenges that we talked about. Forma lets your team take control of integrating the processes and tools into your current workflows. You don't have to change your workflows drastically. You don't have to relearn a bunch of software, and you don't have to worry about integrating that software in your current pipeline. You can create interactive 3D product configurators and marketing content with great visual quality, leveraging easy to use software that doesn't require technical experts. You're able to create different kinds of content. It's not limited to a particular kind of industry as well. You can create product configurators for heavy machinery. You can create product configurators for architecture and sample homes. You can create product configurators for something like home appliances as well as automobiles. And the best part is, with the backend or the backbone of this tool, that is Unity, you can publish this content anywhere. There are multiple ways to publish these configurators. You can publish them over something like Webgl, which offers performance on a large range of devices. However, it will come with a memory and size challenge. But you can also look at things like XR devices. You can even stream high quality visuals across the internet on mobile devices using Unity's cloud streaming service, that is Furious. And you can also deploy directly to mobile devices as native applications, which are sort of optimized for that particular platform, like Android and iOS. And you can just deploy a configurator that can be for internal use or for consumers to basically inspect your catalog of products on their own device. Here we can see an example. So HOMAG is the world's largest woodworking machinery manufacturer. Using Unity's marketing solutions, they built an entire interactive 3D virtual showroom with 35 configurable machines that run in any web browser. Anybody can visit their website to take a look through their machines and technology. When they adopted Unity Forma for the HOMAG virtual showroom project, they achieved a 75% reduction in media production time and an 80% cost reduction for media creation itself. So the key benefits here are an accelerated time to market with automated CAD 3D import, because since Unity Forma runs on top of the Unity Industrial Collection, which already includes the Pixies plugin for importing CAD data into Unity. You're able to make powerful real-time rendering technology accessible to non-technical users. So since Forma is designed to be, a much more user-friendly and less complex experience, you can give it to your designers, you can give it to your marketing folk, and they don't need to be Unity developers to make content with it. You're able to drive better engagement and better conversion because your customers are able to access that configurator and have a more complete understanding of the product and a more personalized experience of their review of the product. And lastly, you can publish realistic, interactive and configurable products to multiple touchpoints. You could publish it to something like web kiosk, you could publish it over a web page, you could publish it to something like showrooms. All of these devices are possible to be built for with Unity. So let's get a glimpse into what that looks like after a brief questions break. If you have any questions, please go ahead and ask them. And after this, we are going to get into a demonstration of Forma.
So we have a question coming in. What version of Unity is required to use Unity Forma? So as of now, the recommended version for Unity Forma is Unity 2020 LTS. That's 2020 LTS. Specifically, Unity 2020.3.20 is the version that we would recommend for using Forma, and that will be covered in the documentation that Forma has as well. To create 3D models on it, the idea here is to basically create models elsewhere, such as a CAD software or such as something like your typical content creation tool like Maya or Blender or AutoCAD, and then have them imported in Forma and then just build a customized a configurator around them. And Forma itself does not have any modeling or content creation capabilities in that sense. What Forma does allow you to do is basically take any 3D model or any CAD file and then just build a configurable experience for your customers without spending too much time worrying about the boilerplate or worrying about the worrying about implementing the logic for it, and just focus on creating content for marketing. Can we use FBX or OBJ files with Forma? You certainly can. You can use FBX OBJ files with Forma. And would this be applicable for FCMG industries like fashion, importing the product data for pieces closing into the configurator? Yes, certainly this would be applicable there for any kind of product that can be presented in different contexts and different configurations. Forma can be used for sure. We'll take another couple of questions before we go on with the presentation. What kind of outputs can be generated with Unity Forma? You can generate an interactive application that lets you or your customers configure the uh, product in a way that uh, gives them better understanding of the product. You can also create images. You can also create video clips, and you with a sister product that we have, you can even create images that are as big as 64K uh, uh, pixels big, right? And I think, can we use it like a 3D open world game like GTA 5? No, you cannot. This is a very different, very industrial focused application that is not designed for games as such. So to export it, you basically build an application, or you can even render out video clips or still images from Forma. So I think we have covered all the open questions, and let's go ahead with the demo part.
Welcome back. So this is what Forma looks like when you load it up the first time. Let's have a quick tour of the user interface. Uh, when you open the Forma for the first time, it will come with this example project called the Aviera automobile project. It's a model of a car that is loaded from CAD data of the vehicle's design, and it comes with a bunch of color packs for an overall theme of the car, some customizable materials for the body color, the seat belts, the interior, and some configurations of the louvers for the braking positions, and different sorts of interactivity built in. On the user interface, on the left hand side, we have these 5 panes or 5 tabs. The first one is the product setup tab. Here is where you will be loading the products. In this case, it's the Aviera automobile model. But if you click on this button over here, this little gear icon, then you're going to see this profile setting option. And in the profile settings option, you're going to be able to add different sorts of products, different environments, and also set some settings for the overall demonstration or the overall configurator. In order to add a new product, you would just click on this add button over here, and with the add button you can add from an FBX model or from a Unity project, or really any model that Pixies can import. Pixies is what the Unity Industrial Collection includes as a plugin, and with that you are able to import any sort of CAD models into Unity directly, and then work with them as if they're Unity objects, or convert them into Unity prefabs, and then just work with Forma. So after the product setup tab, you have this environment setup tab. Here is where you're going to have different sorts of environments to provide a backdrop for your model. If you just click on one of them, you can see that immediately the scene view on the right hand side will reflect the selection of your environment, and it will show what backdrop you have selected behind or around the product. This project also ships with three or four different sorts of environments that you can try out. Essentially, these environments can be cube maps or sky maps, or they can be Unity scenes with 3D objects. In this case, as you can see with this industrial showroom, in which there are real lights around the model that you can interact with, and those are also going to be reflected on the model. They are going to be very much a part of the scene, and their product is going to be really reflecting those and really be very nicely grounded and situated in that environment. After that, you have the cameras tab, the camera setup tab, where you're going to be able to set custom cameras. You have certain options to adjust for those cameras, and we'll be looking at those in detail. You have the rules tab, in which you can set some rules for certain compatibilities or certain availabilities for different regions of parts and different combinations that should not be made possible. And lastly, you have the build setup tab, in which you will be actually building a standalone application out of the Unity editor, out of Forma, that can be deployed on any kind of device. In this case, I have Windows, OS X and Linux support on my system, but I could just as easily add Android support to my Unity editor and build a Forma configurator for Android or iOS or any other platform that Forma supports. Coming back to the products tab, I have gone ahead and sort of reset the scene so that we can start from the beginning. So the Aviera automobile sample comes with a bunch of color packs for the body paint, for different sorts of components of this model that you can customize and sort of make combinations or configurations from. The default one will be this aqua color that you can set it to. And by default, I mean when we make a standalone application with this, it will start with this color scheme or this particular color when we load it up for the first time. It's very easy to just quickly go through these customizations or go through these materials by just double clicking on them. Once you double click on them, immediately the model will update its color or the material associated with it, and it will show you that particular color instantly. Traditionally, if we go for something like a rendering process, this can take a long time, because any kind of update or any kind of customization requires the model to be rendered all over again, and traditional methods are really slow. So with real-time 3D rendering, it's a lot faster and it's a lot more immediate. So the Aviera model comes with these different color packs, so you can just double click them and you can see that not only does the body color change for the car, but also the interiors, the wheel calipers and the different sorts of components also change their colors as well. So if I just double click on the red pack here, you can see the interior has turned red, the calipers inside the wheels have turned red, and the body paint obviously has turned red. So if we had to basically add our own customization for a specific region, for example, what would we do? So it's pretty easy. All you have to do is right click on this body color material variant set and then just click on add variant. Once that is done, it will add an empty variant towards the end of the list. And now all I have to do is basically assign it a name, a display name. I'm going to go for something pink. So I'm just going to type in pink, and it will generate automatically a code that you can change into something that makes more sense. So I'm just going to call it pink variant. This isn't required as such, but it makes good sense to do this so that you have a track of what changes you're making, what you're adding to this project. And once we have gone ahead and done that, what we need to do is select a material to basically customize this with. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this material slot over here, and I'm going to find a car paint material by just typing the name in. So if I type in car paint, and let me just pick one material as the basis for this. So let's just pick the car paint ash one, and then I'm going to customize the color to something else, something pink, like I said over here, and I'm going to basically, that's it. So as soon as I switch back to the pink color, you can see that immediately it will turn into that particular color, right? So this means whenever I have built this application, or if I have entered play mode with this application, this new material variants that I created will be available. So let's take a look at how that works like. So on the right hand side, you have this scene view. So you can navigate in this scene view with your left mouse button and alt, which will help you rotate around the selection or rotate around the product. With the alt key holding down and with the middle mouse button, you can just pan the scene around, and with the right mouse button, you can zoom in or zoom out just like that. Also, you can just click on this game view over here to switch to what actually it will look like when it will be built. So if I just click play in this game view, let's just let that load. Once this is loaded, I'm just going to make it sort of full screen, and then I'm going to be able to look around this model by just clicking and dragging my mouse around just like that. And then I have all these options for the color packs, for the body color, for the interiors, for the seat belts. And like I said, the aqua color being the default one has started up with this model on set on that. So I just have to expand this, and then here at the bottom you should see this new pink variant that we have added, just made available. So if I just click on any other ones, it's going to set that color to that particular variant. I don't have a thumbnail for the pink variant saved yet, which you can do obviously, but if I select the pink over here, then it's going to set it to that pink color, just like that. Let's just exit play mode, and let's look at the next one, which is the environments tab. So the environment tabs lets you select which environment you want to make available for providing a backdrop for your product. So depending on what kind of product you are showcasing, you might want a plain white backdrop like the one we have here, but you might also want something like a an industrial showroom, a luxury showroom, or even something outdoorsy like this salt flat environment we have here. Let's just quickly jump back into scene view and look around this one. It looks very realistic. It looks very polished, and it also gives us a different outlook on how the automobile is going to look in a different outdoors environment, in a different kind of lighting setup. Under the hood, these environments are, like I said, Unity scenes. They can include 3D objects. They can be cube maps or skyboxes. They can be HDRI files that you can use to provide a 360 sphere like projection behind the product, and you can just add them by clicking on this add button, which will open up the profiles and environments window, and you can just click on add to add a Unity scene or an alternate environment, which is an HDRI file or something like that. Coming back here, so for some environments you might want to position the product a little bit more differently. So just to illustrate that, I'm going to switch to this luxury showroom environment. And while I like this environment particularly, I'm not very fond of the way this car is situated in that environment. I want it to be maybe set at a different angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this position button over here, and then I'm going to click on move product. This will essentially give me a gizmo or a handle to work with that I can use to sort of reposition the product in my scene. So I'm just going to pull the car a little bit ahead, turn it and give it a little bit of an angle so it looks nicely positioned and not very flat or not very straightforward in that. In order to save this position, I just have to click on confirm, and now my position for this environment for the product has been saved. So if I switch back to any other environment, the car is going to go back to its original place. If I go to the industrial showroom environment, it's going to stay there. But if I switch to the luxury showroom environment again, it's going to pop into this new position that I have provided for it. And you can see all the buttons that were available with this car are also traveling with it. So Forma takes into account any positions that you have, any position changes that you have made, and it will also take into account the buttons and the interactions that are associated with the car to be moved along with that position. So let's now look at how the cameras work. So with Forma, you're going to want to set up different camera angles to showcase your environment or showcase your product in different conditions. You might want to focus on a particular part of the product. You might want to maybe play an animation of the product that is presented better from a certain angle. Or you might just want to give the user full control over how they want to move about in that space. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly set back the basic white environment, and I'm going to go back to the cameras pane. And you can see that on the left hand side, I have this list of cameras. If I can just click on one of them, you can see that I immediately see a preview of that camera in the scene view as well as the game view. So in the scene view, I'm going to be able to manipulate that and then maybe update that camera to a new position, or simply move the camera around, find an angle that I particularly like, and then use that as a new camera. Doing that is really simple. All I have to do is position the scene view in an angle that I like, and then just click on add, and immediately it will add that camera in the list down here. You can provide a friendlier name for that camera than some random number that Forma assigns to it, such as I'm going to call this a camera from side, and then I can go ahead and make changes to the parameters of this camera, such as the field of vision. I can use that to sort of zoom in or zoom out. I can set the specific angles for that camera vertically and horizontally. I can set if the camera is following an object or not, as well as I can change some additional settings for the camera, like the exposure of the camera, or the color adjustments for the camera, such as adjusting the contrast like this. Or I can just go ahead and get rid of all the colors in there and make it into a nice dramatic black and white shot. And as soon as I'm done editing with that, I can go back to my scene view and also just position it properly and click on update camera. It will update the thumbnail for this camera over here, and it will save that camera in your list, just like that. Now if I go back to my game view and click on play, this camera should be there in the list of cameras that are available to me, and I can just start using that camera as part of this package, just like that. Let's have a look. So here I have all the available cameras in this project already. There's the free look camera which I can just drag around in the scene. Then I have the orbit view camera which lets me just turn around the model in a 360-degree fashion. And now I have also added the camera that I like, which is the camera from side. And as soon as I click on that, you can see that it smoothly transitions into that particular camera, the angle that I've saved, as well as the the color information that I've saved for this camera. And if I select another camera from there, like the free look camera, it will smoothly transition out of that also. So let's just stop that and step back into our editing mode. These cameras are basically Unity cameras, and you can create your own types if you are familiar with Unity. If you are familiar with Cinemachine, you can find some things like overlay images, or following a particular object in the scene, such as the wheels of the car or the doors of the car or something like that, or the car in general, or it could be any component of your object, and that should work just fine. The next one that we have is the rule setup. So the rules setup tab is actually very simple. It provides an additional rule set of what you already have to create customizations that are region specific or context specific, and also to avoid customizations or configurations that are impossible or impractical. So for example, if I want to create a there is an existing rule that we can take a look at. So if the market for this product is set to DE, which is Deutschland, Germany, then we also make an additional color available, which is the pearl color on the body paint. So if I want to just create a new rule over here, I can just click add rule, and then here I can set first the if parameter, that is a condition that needs to be fulfilled. So for example, if the pack if the yellow pack is selected, then I want to make sure that something is not available, which is maybe if I want to make sure that the material variant for the interior color brown is not available, then this is how I would go about doing that. So that this way you can make sure that the combinations that your customers have access to are something that are practical, that are possible, and not something that cannot be delivered. These can range from a bunch of options, like you can see here. It can be a region, it can be something like a condition for color combinations, it can be a condition for different parts availabilities, and you can just go ahead and set rules like that. And you can also set different feature availability actions, as well as select different kinds of feature actions based on the given preconditions. You can also club conditions together so that you can make sure that two or more conditions affect the availability or the configuration of a particular aspect of the product. Coming to the interactions available with this particular model, I'm going to switch back to the scene view, and you can see that there are a bunch of buttons or sort of targets that are lying next to the car, or something that look like they indicate some sort of interactions. So these we call hotspots. These hotspots basically provide a way for the user to interact with the model. So it's not just the user looking at it in 3D, but they are also able to visualize the interactions that are possible with this particular product. So if I go back to the game view and hit play, and let's just take a look at how these hotspots work. As soon as I hit play, it should go back into play mode and come back to the default setting. I'm just going to maximize this again. If I move around a little bit, these buttons just pop up into the view, or if I click, it will just pop back in. And if I click on this button over here, then you can see that it generated an interaction. It sort of lit up this LED strip at the front of the car. If I click again and click the button again, it will turn that LED strip off, right? Similarly, if I just click on this one next to the wheels, you can see that it played back an animation and changed the position of the wheels. If I click that one again, it will sort of reset that. So these hotspots basically provide additional ways for the client or the customer to interact with the object, and to be able to give you more ways for them to see the object, more ways for you to showcase the object, and that they can be a number of things that you can do. So let's just have a look at how that works. I'm going to go back into scene view in the edit mode, and I'm going to set a new hotspot for the louvers at the back for the different kinds of braking positions that they are in. So on the right hand side, you should see this hotspots pane. I'm going to click on add hotspot, and then it's going to ask me an object to select. So I'm just going to click on this left louver over here. And once that button pops up, it means that I have added a hotspot to my scene that I can now work with. So what do I do with this hotspot? First of all, I'm going to give it a proper name. I'm going to call it hotspot underscore louver, and I'm going to make sure that this is a product hotspot. A product hotspot is something that sort of sticks to the product and does not move away from the product if you reposition it. The other options available in this are project hotspots as well as environment hotspots. Environment hotspots will sort of stick to the environment, so there will be specific hotspots for showcasing a certain part of the environment or showcasing the product in a particular setting in the environment, whereas project hotspots will be there as sort of anchored throughout the project, no matter what product you are showcasing or what environment you're showcasing it in. Right. For now, I'm going to stick with the product hotspot because this particular hotspot deals with an interaction that I'm doing with the product itself. Down here, I'm going to see some more options. Under the interaction section, I'm going to expand that. I'm going to leave the camera as is because I don't need a specific camera for this interaction. I want the user to be able to do it from anywhere. And under action, I wanted to use a feature set. So this feature set is for these lures at the rear of the car, right? So I can just click on this slot over here and then select that variant set just in that list, right? And then that's basically it. Now, if you interact with this model in play mode, you should see that clicking this button will give you different configurations right on the spot. So let's have a look at that. I'm going to click on play. Let's let that load. Once again, maximize it. And on the left hand side, you have this already feature set options for the different positions of the louvers, right? We have closed, half open, and breaking. So that we can have a better look at it, I'm going to go to the orbit view and check out the model from behind like this. Oh, that's too much. Yeah, this looks decent enough. So if I go back here, these are the different positions for the louvers to be in, right? Uh, Before I added a hotspot, I would have had to go to this list and select one of all of them individually. Now what I can do is I can just go to the model, find this button and click it, and it will automatically cycle through the different positions available to me for the lures, right? And then it can just it's a matter of just interacting with the object and not selecting an option for the customer, which makes it more immersive, which makes it more contextual to look at, and just gives the customer a more complete experience in terms of what they're seeing and how the product works. Lastly, we have the build setup page. So the build setup page is where you would select what platform you want to deploy your configurator for. You can deploy to a multitude of platforms. On my system right now, I have support installed for Windows, OS X and Linux. But just as easily, I could add Unity's Android support for my project, and then just that also will pop up in this list over here. And once I have that, I can just click on this add button over here, which will create a new build profile, and that build profile can be customized to your liking based on what kind of application you want to build. You can select a render target, which is a high definition render pipeline, or a universal render pipeline, or a scriptable render pipeline of your choice. You can give it a name. So I'm going to call this just Windows legacy, for example. It's not a real profile that we're building, just for the sake of an example, I'm just going to call it that. The build type will be a configurator application, so will be an exe file in this case. The platform target in this case will not be Windows 64, but could be Windows 32-bit, or I can just rename it to Android, and I can just switch it to something like Android. Once I have that, and if I have Android support installed in Unity, I can just as easily deploy this as an APK file that I can deploy on Android phones via side loading or via Google Play, or whichever way you prefer, through USB transfer or something like that. On the product side, you can include or exclude certain products from this build. You can either include nothing, which will just export the bare bones Forma environments and cameras and anything project related that is not specific to a product, or you can include everything. So all the products that are there in this particular configurator will be included, and the customer will be able to visualize through all of them. Or you can selectively exclude some products and just ship the whole thing in parts. You can also choose how you want to publish these products. You can do that either locally or remotely, and you can do a combination of the both, or you can do both of those things selectively. Uh, since I don't have Android installed on my system, I don't have Android support built into the Unity editor. You can see that the platform is not loaded messages popping up on this button, which is grayed out. So I'm just going to switch back to a profile that works, which is Windows, and then I will have this build option. This will essentially build an exe file, and something that I can just deploy to different kinds of platforms that run on Windows. I can even build and launch it immediately on this system itself. One more thing we can take a look at is the product outline. So coming back to the product setup page, here you can add different products by just clicking add. I'm sorry, you can click on this gear icon here and go to the profile settings. So when you have the product window open, you can just, add these products to the list, and then in order to add them to your configurator, you just have to drag and drop this to the left side, and this will basically add the product to your project. And then when you close this, you should see that product just pop up uh, in your scene view, just like that. To cycle through all the products that are available to you, you can click on this name here, or this little triangle here, and it will give you the various products that are available in your projects, and you can cycle through them just like that. Once you have a product loaded, on the product outline tab, you can check out individual components of the product, just like that, and you can use these to inspect the materials that they have on them. So for example, if I want to select this car paint, exterior car body, I can just select that, and I can see which material I'm using, which in turn gives me the ability to take this material and assign it to a variant set and create a new variant from it, just like that. It's a very familiar process for somebody who's using Unity, but it's not terribly inconvenient or difficult to understand for somebody who's not used Unity before. Provided you have a decent naming convention for your CAD data, anybody who's non-technical can very quickly pick these things up and start working through these products. So we are going to break briefly for questions, and then I'm going to show you what a built configurator with Forma looks like. But we are going to take a different path than what we have done, and instead of doing a high quality high end rendering platform like HDRP, we are going to see how Forma can deploy to something lightweight like Webgl and still retain that visual fidelity and that impressive interaction while running all of this in a web page. So we'll just briefly break for questions, and then we can go back to the demo and have a look at how Forma runs in a Webgl setting.
So there is a question that hasn't been answered for quite some time. So why it's named Forma? So Forma is a Spanish word for shape or form, and that's one of the inspirations uh, for the name itself. But also, since it's a product for marketing, you can also consider it that to be one of the possible inspirations behind the name the way it is. Any other questions? We can take a couple more questions before we go into the next part. Variants should be available by default for all models, or do we have to import models and variants? So typically what you need to do is you just need to have materials set up when you are importing them, and those materials will directly become the basis for your different kinds of variants. Then there is another question for from where do you add these material like carpet. So these are typically uh, uh, generated during the import process. So if you have an SBX file, an SBX file will basically come with materials of its own. Similarly, when you import something with Pixies, Pixies will generate materials for that particular model when it's being converted from CAD. While looking at the metadata and the material information in the CAD file itself, and then you can use those materials as basically to serve as the basis of the variants that you will create. You can use post-processing effects such as bloom. You can do that by setting up the parameters of the post-processing section in any camera for that matter. You just have to make sure that the render pipeline that you're working with supports these post-processing effects. If you add a two-product scene and build a project, will it will the build contain both the product scenes, and how to switch between these two products. So you can choose to build both products together or both products separately. And if you when you go get the recording for the webinar, if you step back about 5 minutes from this point, you will see I explain how to build products selectively in a build or all together at once. Once you have built them, you will see just a simple drop down in your build configurator that lets you choose between products. Can you build animations on it? It is recommended that you have animations pre-made and then you work, sort of embed them into Forma. And since Forma is running on top of Unity, it's pretty easy for somebody who's familiar with Unity to build animations on top of it. And if you need to add a new material that's not there in the CAD data, is it possible to add after taking to Unity? Absolutely. So you can still use all the Unity features along with Forma, because it's after all running on top of the Unity editor. And as such, you have all the functionality of Unity at your fingertips while using Forma as a sort of tool on top of Unity. How to import models. If you step back in this video, when you get it, there is a section in the profile settings window where I explain and point out where you can import the models from. Right. So I think we have taken up all the open questions, and we can go ahead and look at the Webgl demo.
Welcome back. So this is the last part of today's webinar, where I'm going to show you how Forma looks like running in a web page. So let me just quickly explain to you what's being shown on the screen here. This is a Webgl build of the demo that we just saw earlier. It's a little bit different than what we saw because it's built with a different pipeline and for a different platform. The demo that we saw earlier was for high-end devices like powerful laptops with better GPUs, or something like a render streaming service like Furious, where high quality 3D graphics are being streamed over the internet. But for something more lightweight like a Webgl build that you can run in a web page, Forma also supports deploying or building with the universal render pipeline, with still retaining the visual fidelity and the impressive visuals that you get typically with Forma. So just to drive this point home, I'm just going to exit the full screen mode and show you that this is indeed actually running in a web page, and this is not this is just a full screen web page running in Chrome. But at the same time, this is full 3D graphics. This is very high quality visuals even on Webgl, and it's running butter smooth in this web page. And you could just fire this up on your mobile phone, you could fire this up on a tablet, you could fire this up on any browser, and it would just run just as fine. You can see that this Webgl demo also has all of the customization options that we talked about earlier. So we still have the different camera angles, albeit they are in a different UI alignment, because this was designed for touchscreen devices. As such, there are bigger buttons, more rounded buttons, and more contextually available menus. So we can still go ahead and take a look at the different cameras that are there, animated cameras, or things like or biting cameras, where you can just turn around the particular model, zoom in, zoom out, and you have obviously all the options of choosing different color packs, customizing the model on specific parts like the body color like we saw earlier, and all the different options for other parts as well. You can also see that the button that we added for changing the louver position is also there, and it's working just fine like that. If you just Google for the Forma Webgl sample, you're going to find this particular demo, and you can test drive this on any sort of a mobile phone, tablet, or even your laptop or desktop. So to conclude, this is how Forma can change a marketing experience for somebody who creates marketing content as well as somebody who consumes it. This tool or these solutions that Forma provides are basically a new way for your customers to experience the product before they actually buy it. They are a new way for us to present a product to customers who are prospectively going to buy it with a better understanding of what the product is, what are the space requirements, what are the visual implications, and things like that. It's useful across multitude of industries, and you can definitely be creative with it and try and apply the same product for different kinds of products, be it retail, architecture, be it manufacturing, be it automobile, or be it home appliances. So this would basically be the end of today's webinar. If you have any questions, we would be very happy to take those. And thanks all for being here, and let's go ahead and get into the questions.
Thanks, Ani. We've just shared the survey link in the chat box, so please fill it in if you like a chance to win a Unity swag pack. In the meantime, Ani, would you like to take some questions and at the same time also share today's best question?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going through all the questions that we've had so far today, and I'm going to pick one of those. Meanwhile, if there are any other questions from our audience, we can take them. We have about 5 minutes to cover those right now. So I think the best question that we've had today is actually from an anonymous attendee. But do we have the person who asked the question about FMCG industries like fashion and product data for clothing and shoes in the audience? Do we have that person online still?
If that is you, please raise your hand or message us in the chat box. Otherwise, you're going to need a backup, Ani.
In that case, I would say
I think we've got it.
Awesome.
No, we don't. Sorry for the confusion. Someone put their hand up. Someone put their hand up, but they lowered it. It wasn't them. No, I think that person's left. There's no anonymous attendee that I can see on the list.
In that case, the backup is Purvasaranpi. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing the name correctly. It's Purvasaranpi with the question, what kind of outputs can be generated from Forma? Because that's really indicative to me of you thinking about, practical use cases for different sorts of marketing activities. So I think that's a really great question in the context of today's webinar.
I will drop a note to that person if Sarah's not already doing it. A second.
And meanwhile, the same person has another question. What data formats does Unity Forma support? So through Unity's Pixies plugins, Forma supports more than 40 kinds of CAD data, as well as typical model import formats like FBX and VLTF and OBJ that Unity will normally be able to import. So you have a very wide range of formats that you can import in Forma. Will there be VR series available for healthcare sectors and its rehabilitation? So VR or AR VR in general is definitely on the roadmap for Forma, and creating those experiences is definitely on the cards. And you should see some updates from about how Forma can work with XR devices sometime in the future.
And we've got the email there. Thank you very much and congratulations. And is there any more questions you would like to answer, Ani? I will leave that to you and you can wind up when you're ready.
I think we've got all the open questions so far. So it's over from my end.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for attending today's session. We look forward to catching up with you with next week's content. And if you've missed out or you think of a question later, please feel free to reach out on the email on which your original invitation was on, or send us an email to events _SAPAC at unity3d.com, and have a